In the movie The Vault, a group of explorers called the Atlantis crew finds a treasure hidden deep in the ocean. They discover a special box that holds the secret to great riches, but the Spanish government demands they give it up. Walter Moreland, a treasure hunter, gathers a team to break into a super-secure vault to get the treasure back. They have only 105 minutes to beat the tricky security system. Will they be able to get the treasure in time? The story started with the Atlantis crew searching for a legendary treasure deep in the ocean. After a long search, 2 divers found a box that held the key to an amazing fortune. At the same time, the Spanish government intervened and demanded that the crew hand over everything. James and Walter, 2 skilled treasure hunters, had been looking for this treasure for a very long time. Walter Moreland, who owned a salvage company, had discovered sunken wealth from an old shipwreck after years of work with his expert team. But now, the Spanish government had taken it. The huge pile of riches was known as the Treasure of Guadalupe. Walter faced the Spanish court at the International Court of The Hague. Since he didn't have a contract for the salvage work, he was accused of piracy. Walter wanted to get his treasure back. So Moreland and his team of treasure hunters set out to break into the secure vault to recover the treasure. Walter had assembled a team of skilled people to help him. Lorraine, a con artist, Simon, a logistics expert, Klaus, a computer hacker, and James, Walter's longtime treasure hunter, were all part of the team. Walter's team couldn't get past the vault's security system, even with all their skills. Because of this, Walter looked for someone who could help solve the problem. He found Tom, a brilliant engineering graduate from Cambridge University, who was eager for new challenges. Tom had turned down many high-paying job offers from big oil companies, despite his father, an oil executive, being annoyed by his decisions. During a dinner conversation, Tom told his father that he didn't want the life that came with working in an oil company. At that moment, Tom received an anonymous text message from someone who had been watching him in the restaurant. The message told him to meet at a nightclub. Tom went to the nightclub and met Lorraine, who introduced him to Walter. Walter offered him a job and explained how advanced the vault's security system was. If someone tried to open the vault without permission, a trigger would flood the room, drowning anyone inside. No one had ever figured out how the system worked. To break into the Bank of Spain's vault and get the confiscated treasure, Walter needed Tom's engineering skills. However, breaking into the vault seemed impossible. The vault could not be hacked, drilled, or tampered with in any way. It was called the world's safest vault for a reason. The bank was over 100 years old and had no blueprints. Its security system was also very advanced. Because of this, Walter believed Tom had the skills needed to understand how the vault system worked. Walter told Tom that the treasure inside the vault was actually coins from the English sailor Francis Drake, who lived in the 15th century. These coins would provide coordinates for finding even more treasure. Tom agreed to join the team and went to Madrid during the 2010 FIFA World Cup when Spain was competing for the championship. The team planned a scheme to distract people from the World Cup, which would be shown all over the country, keeping the bank employees busy. This would give the team the chance to enter the bank and execute their plan. They decided to enter the vault through tunnels. To open the vault, 2 physical keys and Gustavo Medina's fingerprint were needed. They had not yet obtained these. Tom wanted to see the vault to understand how it worked. To learn more about its design, they decided to use a magnetometer. Simon went to the bank disguised as a maintenance worker to help Tom. Lorraine entered the bank posing as Claudia Valenti, an Italian art expert. Klaus used video loops to trick the security cameras. Meanwhile, Lorraine found the keys and tried to duplicate them with UV scanners. Tom went to the basement to check what was below. He used signals to find out what was in the basement by reading magnetic fields. Tom's sharp mind revealed that the substance under the empty chamber was not solid but liquid. The question remained, what was the device that controlled the flooding of the empty chamber? Since the vault was old, it didn't have modern motion sensors or other advanced equipment. Tom's keen observations showed that the vault was beneath a huge water reservoir. If the weight on the scale changed even a little, the vault would overflow, trapping and drowning any burglars inside. Given the situation, the team knew they had to find a solution before the finals, or the crowd would leave. But breaking the scale was still a puzzle. Tom worked tirelessly to solve the problem because the finals were only 4 days away. Meanwhile, Gustavo went to the archaeology department to learn the value of the treasure. He showed a professor the outside markings of the boxes. At first, she estimated they were worth about 20 million euros. But after closer inspection, she realized they were actually worth much more. After that, Walter contacted his friend Margaret, who worked for M16, the UK's Secret Service. He asked for her help and promised her half of the treasure as payment. He needed her to create a story for him. Soon after, Gustavo heard about a message from British intelligence. 2 agents from the agency had been held at Heathrow the day before. One of them had a memory card with details about the bank's plans. It was clear this was a fake distraction. Meanwhile, Tom continued to search for a way to stop the huge scale from turning. Lorraine invited Tom to a disco pub for a drink to help him relax. While watching the bartender, Tom came up with a great idea to trick the scale. He suggested that if they reduced the atomic activity, the weight on the scale wouldn't show up. He planned to use 500 liters of liquid nitrogen to freeze the scale. This would slow down the scale's mechanics enough so it wouldn't detect their presence or trigger a flood while they retrieved the treasure. However, the team had only 105 minutes to finish the mission before the alarm went off. To distract the authorities and Gustavo, the head of bank security, Klaus hacked into the bank's cameras and systems. Simon was in charge of freezing the scale. While Tom, Lorraine, and James carefully entered the vault, Simon managed to freeze the scale under the vault's floor. Tom's plan worked, but the scale was melting faster than they had expected. So, the trio hurried to the containers to find what they were looking for. Lorraine then noticed the words, Sic Parvi Magna, on a box. They realized this was the box with the coins inside. Gustavo had regained control of his systems, which Klaus had accidentally accessed days earlier, while they searched for the coins. Gustavo ordered a strike team to capture the intruders after learning that the team had already entered the bank to scout it. Walter told the trio to surrender to the squad because he thought they had been compromised. James then pulled a gun on Tom, refusing to surrender, and demanded the coins, revealing that he was a British government agent. The vault closed in on them, trapping them inside. However, James's diving skills allowed him to escape to safety, leaving Tom and Lorraine behind. With time running out, Tom believed that making the scale think the vault was filled with water was the only way to stop the water from flooding in. He told Simon to put extra weight on the scale by adding the empty nitrogen canisters, but this wasn't enough to stop the water from pouring in. The team lost communication with Tom and Lorraine and thought they had drowned. As a last resort, Simon stood on the scale with a radio playing World Cup commentary, using the last bit of weight to stop the water flow. The vault began to leak. Tom and Lorraine managed to escape bank security and reach the square, where fans were celebrating Spain's first World Cup victory over the Netherlands. James reported the coins to Margaret. However, the coins turned out to be fakes with wrong coordinates. Walter had cleverly copied the coins and, with Lorraine's help, swapped them with the originals. The real coins were still in Walter's possession. While the team relaxed in Saint-Tropez, Walter discovered that the coordinates pointed to the Bank of London and explained their next mission, which would start in 2 years during the London 2012 Olympic Games.